Yay, we're
All
live.
right, we are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Erin from Books for the Past. Welcome to our launch event for Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. We've got a lineup of 3 great authors this evening. They're going to have a great discussion about books and writing, and then they'll take some questions. So if you'd like to ask our panelists a question, ask it in the comments. I'll be monitoring the comments, and we'll pass questions along to the authors, and they will answer as many as they can. Also in the comments, I'm going to include a buy link for all of our lovely authors' books this evening, and a donation link to support bail funds for protesters fighting for justice for George Floyd and against police brutality across the country. All right, let me tell you about our authors, and then they'll get started, and I'll shut up. So, first we've got Dhonielle Clayton, who is a New York Times best-selling author of the Bells series, the co-author of Tiny Pretty Things, which debuts on Netflix soon. She hails from the Washington, D.C. area on the Maryland side. Yay, Maryland.
The best side.
Right? Absolutely.
Just saying.
She taught secondary school for several years and is a former elementary and middle school librarian. She's also COO of the nonprofit We Need Diverse Books, which I highly recommend that you look up on social media, and the co-founder of Cake Literary, a creative kitchen whipping up decadent and diverse literary confections for middle grade, young adult, and women's fiction readers. And by the way, Dhonielle, I've not had dinner yet, so that makes me really hungry.
Neither have I. So.
Dhonielle's an avid traveler and always on the hunt for magic and mischief. Next up is Brittany Morris. She's the author of Slay. She holds a BA in economics from Boston University because back then she wanted to be a financial analyst. She's now glad that didn't happen, and I think we're all glad that didn't happen as well. We like the books better because, we're readers, not mathematicians. She spends her spare time reading, playing indie video games, and enjoying the rain from her house in Philadelphia. She lives with her husband, Stephen, who would rather enjoy the rain from a campsite in the woods because he hasn't played enough horror games. And now I'm terrified. Brittany is the founder and former president of the Boston University Creative Writing Club, and she's a 4-time NaNoWriMo winner. And our guest of honor this evening is debut author Rosie Brown, who was born in Kumasi, Ghana, and immigrated to the wild jungles of Central Maryland as a child. She graduated from the University of Maryland with a bachelor's in journalism and was a teaching assistant for the school's Jimenez Porter Writers House program. Her journalistic work has been featured by Voice of America, among other outlets. Rosie currently lives outside Washington, D.C., where in her free time, she can usually be found wandering in the woods, making memes, or thinking about Star Wars. I think we can all join you on that last one. All right, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to mute myself, and ladies, take it away.
I'm so excited to be ushering this book into the world with you all today. Rosie, you are a light. I'm so happy to have been asked to be a part of celebrating you and getting to talk to 2 faves about Black Girl Magic and your fabulous world and all those things. But first, you're going to share a code word. Everyone who's listening, there will be 3 code words that we share throughout the evening so that you should collect all 3 like Pokemon. And then you email me at dhonielleclaytonwrites@gmail.com to win one of 3 prizes. So, yes. Anyways, first, to start us off, can you give everyone who hasn't read the book, because the book just came out, a pitch about what this fabulous book is about?
Okay, guys, so everyone, A Song of Wraiths and Ruins. There she
Yes.
is, shiny and yours. It's her birthday.
Yes.
So A Song of Wraiths and Ruin is set in a world inspired by West African folklore, and it follows 2 protagonists, a refugee named Malik and a princess named Karina. So Malik, his younger sister, is kidnapped by a vengeful spirit, and he's able to barter for her freedom. Like, she will go free if he murders the princess of Zuran, the country they're in. So he enters a competition to get close to the princess to marry her. However, he doesn't know that the princess, her mother, has just died. And so she's discovered a spell that will allow her to bring her mother back to life. But to do it, she's going to need the heart of a king. So she set up this marriage competition so she can marry someone, make them king, and then murder her to save her mother. So it's a dual POV, and you're following both these characters as they're kind of trying to maneuver around each other and murder each other without actually knowing that's what the other is doing. And of course, when they actually finally meet, they both realize they both have a lot more in common than they realize. And so it's about the way things kind of go off the rails and how their plans just kind of blow up in their own faces in fun ways.
And I love it because you did the whole most in this book.
I was
mean,
going to say, just
Yeah.
hearing you talk about just hearing that pitch over again, I was reliving the magic of that book. I was on the floor right after turning the last page. I said, let me call her. Like,
I know, right? You
now.
want to fight her about what she did. And it made me think, I mean, you killed enemies to lovers, like you did it. You did a whole thing in that book. You could be doing a whole lot of other things. And you're a fabulous writer now. You're an author. Your first book is coming out. And I want to know, why books? I know that you have West African parents. I have Black American parents from the South. They wanted me to be a doctor, but I failed chemistry. Didn't work out for me. So why writing? Why this as the thing that you're doing?
So the thing is, writing has always been the thing that came most. So it's come the most naturally to me after a certain point, because I mentioned this on my social media a little. English isn't my first language. So as Aaron mentioned earlier, I was born in Kumasi, Ghana, which is like up kind of north centralish Ghana. Shout out to my people. And when we came here, I was about 3 or 4, and I did not speak English at all. I spoke our native language, Tree. And so like I was failing school. Like I didn't know you could fail preschool, but apparently I almost did. So like I was failing preschool. Like the teachers were like, we think she's not developed, she's not ready, she can't do it. We give her stuff she just doesn't understand. And like at home I was fine, but just like the language was just not coming, and it kept on not coming for like a kind of a worrying amount of time. And the moment kind of things started to turn around was, I distinctly remember I was in BJ's and I was with my mother. We were shopping and they had this row of like cheap toys. And like I really wanted this one toy. So I kept being like, Mom, give me the toy, give me the toy. And she was like, okay, look, I will buy you that toy if you take one book and you read the entire book and you tell me what it's about in English, and we will come back next time we're here, I'll buy you the toy. And I was like, ugh, okay, Mom. So like I stomped over to the BJ's book selection, which is not as varied as you think. And the top book there was a book with a lot of controversy these days, but Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I just devoured that. Like until that moment, I think it didn't occur to me like what words could do and what English could do. And from that moment, I actually never got that toy. It has been like 20 years now. I never got that, so I got to look.
She owes that toy,
right?
So you need to go collect. You need to collect that.
But from that moment, I was just hooked. Like stories, books, like the librarians, they knew me. We were tight. Like it was just everything I could get my hands on. I was reading. My dad got me Jane Eyre in 2nd grade, which was a mistake. But like I was reading, I read Jane Eyre, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, also in 2nd grade. Because the thing is, my parents, bless them, Mom, if you're watching this, I love you. I don't think they were fully aware of reading levels. And so if it was a book, they're like, Rosie likes books. So they're like, here you go, Legend of Sleepy Hollow to an 8-year-old. Here you go. So they've actually always kind of defied that stereotype in the sense that like they saw it was something I was passionate about, and especially because it was something I had struggled with for so many years. So when they saw me naturally on my own gravitating towards it, they really sort of fueled it. And so originally I was at University of Maryland. I studied journalism, like Aaron mentioned. And because I love stories and I loved being able to tell other people's stories and really present sort of voices who kind of like giving them their chance to really speak for themselves. But creative writing always remained my first love.
Oh, that's amazing. And please tell everyone your code word number 1.
Okay, everyone, code word number 1 is talking hyena.
Talking hyena, folks.
One more
Talking
time.
hyena.
Talking hyena.
All right, code word number 1. All right, Brittany, now you put her in the hot seat. We're going to go back and forth tonight of just roasting Rosie. And that's what it should have been called, Roasting Rosie, a real song of Wraiths and Ruin tonight.
I've been waiting for this day.
That's what should be a roast of Wraiths and Ruin. Oh
exactly.
Missed opportunity.
So my first question is about one of my favorite elements in A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which is how you play with gender role reversals. And I can't talk about all of it without spoiling some things, so I won't. But I know at the beginning we saw Malik and his like paternal instincts and how he interacts with his sisters. And at the same time, Karina is kind of on the opposite side where she's more focused on like political moves and strategy. Tell us what it was like executing something so like unexpected and cool like that, because you did it flawlessly.
Thank you. So for me, people are surprised when they hear this. Malik actually came first, which is rare for me because I usually don't do male protagonists. I usually write girls only, but he was the first character who came to me. And I distinctly remember it was 2016 and I was walking back to my dorm at University of Maryland, go Terps. And mental health and mental like kind of stigma in the Black community is something I care a lot about. It's something that's impacted my life and my family's life deeply. So I was walking back from a therapy session actually, and I was thinking of like, I just remember having the thought to myself, like, man, if a ghost tried to possess me right now, then like they'd just be like, there is a lot happening in here. I don't want that. You can take this back. Like,
Yes.
I have this image of this boy who this actually happened to, like who was dealing with the supernatural. They're just like, are you good? Like, we know we're like trying to spirit you away, but like, are you just good right now? And I was thinking like, how many fantasy have I seen that have done like mental illness not necessarily as a metaphor, like, but like actually just the characters are really dealing with it and dealing with magic problems. So that's where Malik came from. And I knew from the start with Malik that I wanted him to really be someone who obviously he struggles a lot with anxiety. He struggles a lot with some self-harm ideation. And he also struggles with the way the world sees him because I know my culture specifically and a lot of African cultures are very patriarchal and there's a very certain idea of what it means to be an African boy, and that image is very hyper masculine. And so when I was crafting Malik, I was like, how is someone who is genuinely just not like that? How would they like? How do you navigate a world like that? And how do you navigate like knowing that honestly, if you like gave into the toxic masculinity, you gave into sort of like the worst ideas of what it can possibly mean to be a man, it would make your life easier. Like there are moments in the book where Malik, if he does the more hyper masculine, aggressive way to tackle a problem, it would make his life easier. And it's like, how do you actively choose non-toxic masculinity in a world that would reward you for toxic masculinity?
Yes.
So that is what I want to do with Malik. And as for Karina, so the thing about Karina is I actually envision Karina as someone who's like super sweet, like Disney princess, like, because I'm very aware of the stereotype of like the angry, aggressive, rude, sassy, mean Black girl. And like, I really wanted to write against that. I was like, she's going to be so nice. She's going to be like singing in the meadow. Like, she's just going to
Rosie, really?
well, I like
I don't
Disney
believe
a lot.
that.
I like it. No, here's the thing. That's what I thought. And then she just kept coming out the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
She
She's like,
came
I'm
out
gonna fix you. I'm gonna fix you and all of that.
and so I had to stop and think, I'm like, wait. Like, and at first I was actually worried because I'm like, am I writing to the stereotype? Because those who have read the book can tell you, Karina, she's aggressive. Like, just not even just by nature of this world. She is just, even by the standards of the world of the book, she's a very aggressive person. She's very kind of rude to people. She lashes out as soon as she gets angry. Like, she is, in some ways, she writes to the stereotype of the angry Black girl. And I was thinking, like, hang on, if this character keeps coming this way, instead of me trying to make her not like this because I'm trying to like please this audience of like try and be like, oh, you can't make me write a stereotype. I'm like, hang on, if this girl is angry, why is she angry? What made her this angry?
Mm-hmm.
What in this world has like fostered so much anger and bitterness that like she feels like the only way she can protect herself is by lashing out? And like,
I just call that being direct. I just call that being direct.
Mhm.
She's just direct. She's direct and she's ambitious and headstrong.
And honest.
And honest. And she knows what she wants and she knows what she doesn't like. Okay.
That's true.
Leadership
And we stand
skills,
that.
Rosie. Leadership skills.
She did. So there is that one scene that she was right for that scene. Like that scene where she does to Malik. That was not nice. That was not nice.
She wasn't, oh yeah. She could think a few things through a little bit more.
but
As could we all.
Right.
It's
But her
true.
frontal lobe is still developing. She's a teen. Let her
Exactly.
live.
So like I think for where Karina became, instead of me being like, I'm gonna write the opposite of like the angry Black girl, I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna write a Black girl who is angry. Like not the angry Black girl, but a Black girl who is angry. And I want the readers to sit with that and think, where is this anger coming from? Like, how is it justified? How do I see it reflected in a lot of the real anger in real Black girls? And like, why, when I see a Black character who's angry, why is my instinct like, oh, she's angry because she's Black? Like, why don't you take that deeper dive? Like, where is this coming from?
Which is so amazing to think about character and to think about how your characters are acting with the stakes of your world. And you've got killer stakes, my friend. I was like, is she really
From
gonna
all
do
directions.
This? Yeah, I was like, is she really going to do this? She's really going to do this. This is really happening. How are they going to fall in love? How are they going to find their way to each other? How are they going to make it work? You know what I mean?
And as soon as something was resolved, I was over here on the other side going, but what about this other thing now?
Right. And so what I want to know too, as a creator, what came first? It's the chicken and the egg situation, right?
Yes.
Like, did your characters come first, or did you build this world? Has this world lived with you for a long time, and then you found your way into the world? And I also want to know, Brittany, in your work, based on what Rosie says, what side are you on, character or world?
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm definitely character first. Like, the whole story started with Malik first, and like
with Malik.
It did. It started with Malik. Like, he was the first character. Like, he was the one dealing with the supernatural. And it's just like, I knew I wanted, when I came time to fill, like, honestly, at no point did it ever occur to me to not set this world in a place inspired by Africa. Like, it never occurred to me to do that. Because, like, for me, my first foray into fantasy, even before I started reading, it was folktales. It was the stories my aunties and my mom would tell me, and my grandmas. And when I say stories, like, these women, they convinced me that if I got bad grades, cannibals would eat me. Like, I was convinced for years cannibals were coming out. Like, they told these stories very well. Like, they were
my childhood was
like, but it's stuff like that. Like, and yeah, now I'm like, okay, there aren't cannibals roaming the suburbs of Maryland, but just kind of like that idea of like fantasy and like real world just being so intertwined.
I haven't seen those cannibals, yo. And I'm
I was about to say, we might as well at this point in 2020.
I'm just like, you know what? You just have the street. Go ahead, just take the town. I can't stop you. But it's just like, I think what I love so much about like the richness of so much African oral storytelling, and of course specifically West African, because that's what I know. It's different all over the continent, but like my base is West African. Is that like the idea of like even what we would consider fantasy isn't fantasy. Even something like Anansi, which everyone knows of Anansi, and throughout he has sort of different roles throughout the diaspora, but really in the traditional original sort of Akan folktales, Anansi is both a supernatural being but also a human being, like at the same time. And he's not, even though he has what we would consider magic or powers, he's not portrayed in that way. It's like, this is Anansi. Sometimes Anansi talks to gods, sometimes he steals people's goats. Like, it's both are true. Like, both are true about this character. And so I wanted a world that felt like that felt like this folklore world where like magic and like like sometimes I like to describe it, it's like a world where the extraordinary is the extraordinary, because like just the idea of magic living side by side with humans just being just this normal sort of thing, because I think so many like Black communities all around the world where we view like sort of magic and fantasy through that lens. So for me, it's characters informing the world. If that's my very long way to get to that answer.
Britt, what about you?
So in terms of whether I start with the characters or the world, I'm going to cheat and take the middle road and say I start with a question, like every time. So for Slay, it started with the question. I know. So with Slay, it started out with the question, what would happen if there was an all-Black video game? Like specifically for Black people only. And then that kind of dovetailed into who would have a problem with the existence of this game and why. And there's a surprising amount of answers, like 80,000 words worth of answers. So that's where the inspiration for that came. And then for my next book, the question is, what would happen if two Black boys could see into their future and see into their past? And how would it affect their mental health, specifically as Black teenagers? What do you mean?
So you're trying to hurt us all out here. You're trying to really take our heart and like just.
It took a lot out of me. Yeah. But yeah, mine always start with a question.
Brittany, when am I getting this book? That's my question, actually. When am I getting this book?
Next spring. I hope to announce it soon.
Oh my gosh. What's so fascinating is that's perfect. You're in the middle, because I start with world. And so I built the World of the Bells first. And then I thought, I just wanted to do a world based around a question, you know, is there a connection between the way you look and the way people treat you, and assign value to certain parts, especially, you know, thinking about Black women and Black women's bodies. And then I thought, let me do a world where you could just change everything. And then I thought, who do I follow? Let me find someone who could make the most trouble in that world as our ambassador, as our guide. So this is interesting that we all come at this central question of building our books and building our worlds differently, which I love this. This is this is the fun stuff, because I think you can learn each way. I want to challenge myself to do it your way, Rosie, maybe next time, to think about a character first and find my way into the world. And then along those lines, something that when we were doing our debut Who conversation, something that I can't stop thinking about that you brought up was we were talking about maps, and you have a beautiful map in the front of your book of your world. And you talked about how you conceptualized where things are, taking us out of this Western Europe gaze as the center of the universe. Can you talk about that? Because literally I've been chatting with so many people about that because it's stuck with us. Never heard anyone talk like that before.
Oh, thank you.
It was wild.
Quick, how do cameras work?
Show us. Yes.
There's a map.
Beautiful.
It's by map maker Leo Hardis. He did a great job. I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, I don't know how. There's a little tiny camel. He threw in so many details, like little sea monsters, camels, like the mask.
I love
like,
that.
They did such a great job with the map. So, yeah, I can talk about the map. So, I think when it came to making this world, I think part of it comes from the fact that like I just had no inclination to make any part of my world based in Europe. But also, I didn't necessarily want it to be a one-for-one for Africa either. Like, even why specifically people ask why I say West African fantasy, not Ghanaian fantasy even though I'm Ghanaian. It's like, even though Ghana was a huge inspiration, it wasn't the only culture I worked with. Like, kind of the specific area I chose to focus on was the trans-Saharan trade routes between sort of like North Africa, starting from Morocco, all the way down towards Ghana in that area. Because like that's where we see a lot of the ancient empires like Mali, Songhay people, ancient Ghana. And that's where a lot of the really cool action was happening. I might be biased saying that, but that's where I feel it's a very cool region of the continent. And so when I was thinking about how does this world look, how do this world see themselves, I was like, honestly, if a world based part of Africa, there's no reason to really think North means like polar, like something we see a lot in fantasy, because so much of fantasy is based in Europe. Like if you go north, you're going to hit Scandinavia, so you hit polar ice regions. And if you go south, you're hitting the Mediterranean, so you hit more tropical temporal regions. So because so many
think of that.
Yeah. So because so many fantasy writers have historically been European, when they make the world, they just naturally put the cold up north, they put the tropics down south. Like you see this in Lord of the Rings. You see this in like Game of Thrones. They literally have the wall is literally the north. Like, and so I was thinking like, for me, like in Ghana, when we think north, we think the desert. The desert's north of us. So like the association that north means cold is not something I ever had till I came to America. It's not even something my family naturally has. So I was like, why should I make the coldest region of this continent the most northernmost region? So I decided in this book, the continent's called Sonande. And Sonande is on the southern hemisphere of its planet. And so actually, because it's on the southern hemisphere, as you move north, you're moving towards the equator. So it actually gets more tropical the farther north they go. And then their south is their version of Antarctica. So you're actually heading towards the polar region. So for them, they associate north with the tropics and they associate south with the polar regions. And so you see characters mention this in small ways. They'll be like, oh, he just came back from a trip up north and he just was complaining about the humidity. Or it's like, oh, I've always wanted to go down south and see a polar bear. Like just sort of small ways. I just wanted to kind of defy the idea of like a fantasy has to look like X. A fantasy has to have the like ice people up north. It has to have, if you choose to use Asian inspired cultures, they are to the east of wherever you are. Like just because Asia is to the east of Europe, why? Like I want to challenge that master. Like why? Like where? I think the way we orient ourselves has been so kind of like entrenched in European thinking, even in fantasy, that like a lot of writers just subconsciously do it. They're like cold north, like tropical south, like Asian inspired cultures to the east, like they just do that. And it's like, we don't have to do that. And so because I was like, there's no one making me do this, so I'm not going to do it. So.
I love that because
I love that
you're
too.
challenging all of us to think about our orientation in the world and then how we create and take that into a fictional landscape. And why take that baggage of the orientation of our world into a thing that we've made up? And
Mhm.
so I've never heard anyone articulate it in that way about where we are in our fictional world doesn't have to mirror where we are in our real world, and we don't have to privilege things in that way. Yeah. You had me
Me either.
bugging for days.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna
I'm
be
catching
great.
myself just hearing this for the first time because in Slay there are different regions and they all have different climates. And in the book, I never mentioned where everything is on a map or anything, but in my head, I'm sure if I had to place everything first inclination, Tundra would have been in the north.
Mhm.
And now I get it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like it makes sense. It's just your first thought because it's like it's just that's how we've been taught to view the world. Like the fact that we don't even question all maps have Europe in the center. Like because we're just so used to it. Like I remember I was living in Japan up until last year actually. And the first time I walked into our classroom and I saw they had Japan in the center of the map, I was like, there's something wrong with this map. And it honestly took me a second to realize, oh no, it's the same world map I'm used to. It's just their map centers Japan. It's like honestly, there's no reason their map needs to center Europe. Like, why should they? They're in Japan. So like I think stuff like that, like just small ways we can change the way we think about the world has big impacts.
Yes.
And I love that because you're centering something completely different. And something that I also love about your world and your fantasy is that we get these nuanced, beautiful Black characters that are just glorious and a celebration. And it's more than just that they're in this setting. They have real stuff that they're dealing with. You gave them an insurmountable task and a very high stakes, like lovely sort of page turning story. And that's what I've always wanted, where I'm like, I just want to read about Black characters that are they going to be in love? They're not going to be in love. What's going to happen? What's the drama? Are they going to save the day? Oh my God. Is the villain going to win? Like, I just want that. I've always wanted that. And so I just think I'm jealous of the teens nowadays that get to have this at
Right.
15 and 16. I'm like, you don't know what you have. I'm going to be that old lady with a cane. You don't know. Because what you've been able to do, I think it's just fantastic. I loved it. And Britt, you're up for a question. Sorry, I like derailed.
That's all right.
Okay. Sorry.
So my question is kind of like way out of left field, but I'm really, really curious about it. So I know you said you were born in Ghana and then you moved to the United States. So your immediate family is Ghanaian.
Mhm.
And so talk a little bit about what it was like writing a story that was so inspired by West African culture, having grown up in the United States and kind of living. Did you feel like you lived like between the worlds of Ghana and America, or some blend of both? And how does that influence your writing?
Ooh.
So that's an amazing question because Vampire, you really trying to
Here we go.
you're trying to get my life story out
I
here.
warned you.
So I think I'm in as a Black immigrant to the United States, I'm in a fascinating position as someone who has spent the majority of almost her entire life in America without being a Black American. So like the idea of what does it mean to be Black in America but not be a Black American is it's a question with no clear answer. And there's definitely this idea, of course, again, what does it mean to be an African who does not live in Africa? Like, and to be like, I identify primarily as a member of the diaspora because I think it would be hypocritical not to be, because even though I was born there and I am very privileged in that I know where my link to the mainland goes. And that's not something everyone in the diaspora can say. It's still not where I grew up. It's not where my memories have been formed. And in some ways I wrote that sort of into a song, Wraiths to Ruin. It was kind of like writing to home, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And kind of like trying to kind of
Beautiful.
bridge that
I
gap
love
between
that.
what I know and what I don't know. And I think that's why the stories took center stage, because most of what I know from Ghana isn't actually from the family trips there, or even what I've researched, because there was a lot of research, but it's from the stories, because we used stories as a way to pass down culture, because so much of it was destroyed in colonialism, or it was only ever oral. And so much of what I understand about not even just oh, this is what we do, this is why we do it, but this is what it means to be us, came through the stories, even the cannibal story. That just says a lot. It reflects a lot about kind of where we value education, how much we value education, things like that. And so I think in that sense, very much is a real fear. Also, I think every writer from a marginalized group knows that fear of like not writing to write something harmful for your own group, and also doubly so not wanting to write anything harmful about another marginalized group that you are not part of. Because for me, even more than sort of messing up the Ghanaian parts, my biggest fear was like messing up the parts from the other cultures around the area. Because I'll be the first person to tell you, Africa is not a monolith. Ghana alone has 52 languages. I cannot name them all. Like,
Whoa.
I might even have that number wrong by notes. I think it's somewhere around that range. Like, even Ghana alone is a very, very diverse, very lots of differences. Even my parents, they're two different tribes. My mother's Kwayu, my father is Ga, and so they have even different tribes. They speak different languages. So with that much just sort of cultural nuance and detail, I just knew like I cannot write 100% accurate about every single one of these cultures, but I want to write with respect, and I want to write in an air that feels true. And so kind of like the way I view it is like, you know how something like Little Red Riding Hood, at no point in that tale does it ever actually say it's set in Europe, but like everyone understands Little Red Riding Hood is set in Europe. So it's like I want it like that. Like at no point is the word Africa ever said in the book, because in this world Africa does not exist. But like people could feel like they could see the cultural markers, they could see the codes. And I was like, because with these cultures, so many of them had been vilified in Western media and had their cultures and their spiritual traditions and their beliefs twisted and like just misrepresented. I was like, as much as the places where these cultures are similar, I really need to get them places where they're different. That's really where I need to be careful and make sure, even as someone adjacent to these other cultures, making sure that space is being treated as it needs to be. So I think that was really where it was for me, like trying to understand sort of like the cultural differences within there. And like it's definitely a hard burden to bear, because I definitely know people who aren't from marginalized backgrounds. There are writers who don't worry about this, and we see the consequences of what happens when you don't think about these things. But it's like, as stressful as it kind of was trying to juggle that, it's like I'd rather do that work and put in that work now and know that like I have put out something that I feel is as respectful as it could be. And if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. I own up to it and I try and work to not do that again. But I'd rather do that than just be like, oh, it's just fantasy. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
We don't get to have that luxury to do that because we have systematically been censored from the publishing industry, and our stories have been bastardized and been written by other people that are not us. We don't get the luxury to just say, oh, I'm going to do whatever. Like, we bear the responsibility. Black women have always carried the weight of it. And so you had to do that. You had to do home. And it was beautiful. You had to do home proud because it's been so bastardized. I just remember being a kid, the only images of Africa that I had in the 80s and 90s were from the National Geographic magazines. So the whole word African, when I'm a child, I'm thinking that those are the people in the National Geographic magazines, right? And that's literally, they taught us to hate and to dislike and to distance ourselves. And I think that the more and more of what I'm reading and what these fantasies built out of the beauty of West African cultures, of all of the different things, make me so excited and so proud to be away, right? I'm in the away category, but to have that connection through these great big imaginations that, that we have, that you have, to have a connection back to that, to my bloodline, is something I never thought I was going to be able to experience. So thank you for being so wonderful and awesome and doing that. It's hard. I know it's hard. It has to be. To carry that. And so I always like to thank Black women for doing the work that we do, for carrying the load and the weight on our shoulders. It's really, really hard. But just to flip it to be nice, first, Brittany, hit us with your code word, please, because we are halfway.
Okay. So my code word is s'mores ice cream. It refers to book 2.
Okay.
I won't say s'mores ice cream.
S'mores ice cream, code name number 2, s'mores ice cream. Okay. Before we start taking questions from the audience, because we have a few, I want to talk about love. Okay. Look, I'm here for love. I am a secret romantic. I think that this love story that they have is pretty much like what my eternal love story would have been like in high school. Like, it's going to be enemies to lovers, not with all the, like, I have to murder my love interest, but more of like, ew, I don't like them. Ew, 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 ew. You know what I mean? Like, it's more like that, okay, emotionally speaking. So I want you to talk about how you built this love story. I mean, you gave me the cinnamon roll black boy of my dreams. So, like, 16-year-old, or my 16-year-old self. So, like, how'd you do it, Rosie? What's the secret sauce?
I'm about to say something blasphemous, and some of y'all have heard this, but this story was originally not a romance. Malik and Karina both had different love interests. Karina, she actually used to have a hot bodyguard. The good people of Harper College, shout out to y'all. They love this bodyguard character. He had to be cut because the reason he had to be cut, from the moment, like, I signed with Carissa probably back oh my God, that was 2017. Wow. And she was like doing her first read through before going on sub, and she's like, Rosie, are you sure are you sure Malik and Karina don't get together? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, sure, yeah. And I was just like, okay. She let it go on something like that. And so we sold, and then, like, Kristen's going over her notes, and then in her notes she's like, are you sure Malik and Karina? I'm like, they're not the main couple. I'm like, no, I'm sure. I know what I'm doing. Reader, I did not know what I was doing, because, like, I was going back through it again after her edit letter and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, they are the main couple. Oh my goodness, I gotta write out this whole separate thing. Because I think what I was missing, it was never a problem with romance. That was never the issue. I love romance, and I think those are some of the best writers, most hardworking, hustling writers in this industry. But I don't know, I just thought I thought it was more like an adventure sort of thing. But even from the start, even when it wasn't a official romance, an element that it had was that both Malik and Karina come into each other's lives, and they make each other better people. And I think that's truly what romance is about. Like, of course, you have your different heat levels, from like no physical contact to like your fire. You have like your different, like, so many different elements. Like, so it's not even necessarily about the physical connection, but the emotional, like, two or more people coming into each other's lives and making each other a better person and helping them become the best version of each other. And even when it wasn't a romance, Malik and Karina were doing that for each other. So I was like, oh, I wrote a romance. I didn't realize it was a romance. Oh man, they're all right. They are right. Ooh. So that was a lot of rewriting. So I made my own life hard. And so.
But it was such a beautiful thing too. Shoot, I'm putting that in. If I ever do online dating, I'm gonna put that in there. I'm like, look, I'm looking for this kind of love. Read this book.
Read this book.
Right. I need to be made better. Like,
just peek out.
Exactly. No, but it's just a beautiful testament to, I think, teaching or modeling for teens, like, here's the good bits of like what it can be, right? And this is what you should be looking for as a central part of connection with another person, because a lot of our teenage years for some of us is figuring out, like, oh God, how do I feel about other people? I know that's what mine was. Do I even like this? And I think if someone said, when you have a relationship with someone, it's really about can you make each other feel better? Because the world is like awful. So like, what can we do together? So I think that that's beautiful. And to see two Black teens be able to do that, why does it feel radical to me? Like, I
think we have so many examples of young Black love not working out that, like, it was such a relief to see it work beautifully and effortlessly, and just I don't have words for how incredible it was to read that.
But I know that if you harm a hair on Malik's head in book 2, we are going to fight. So you better hide. I know where you live. I know you're in Maryland.
Where you live too.
Okay, I know you're in Maryland, and my parents are in Maryland. I will be at your house being like, we need to talk, because I will not stand for it. Okay?
You're gonna bring the cannibals. They're gonna find me, because we're going to snitch to the cannibals where I am.
Right, and you're gonna be like, there are people banging on the windows. They're banging on the windows.
Your mom's gonna be like, Rosie, my friends are here, and you're gonna be like, don't tell them about it. I'm gone.
Hey, I know you have to do that because this is what is required, but it's going to be really hard for me to handle it, okay? Because it's so good, it's so cathartic, and I really love what you did. I was just like, oh no, just one more chapter. I got to make sure. They gotta be, I gotta just see. I just gotta see. And I think that that's when you invest. That's when love stories are at their best, is when you've invested in what it means for them to be together and understand each other. So
I got to the halfway point in like 3 days, and I was sitting there. My husband came in and he was like, "How's the book?" And I was like, "It's great. I love it. I'm actually really, really impressed," because I had just read Children of Blood and Bone, and I was like, like they're it's been pitched. It's been comps. That's the word I'm thinking of. Yes. Children of Blood and Bone is a comp, and I was like, it's pretty good. Like coming on the heels of Children of Blood and Bone, that's incredible. I got to 3/4 of the way through the book, and my husband came in and said, "Still liking the book?" And I said, "Don't talk to me. Go away. Go do something. I'm busy. I'm busy forever. Go away."
Oh, yes, that means a lot.
Don't talk to me.
Book is a heavyweight, so thank you.
Also, I'm sure none of these comments are gonna make it into the questions because none of them are really questions. But the number of comments I'm seeing demanding to bring back a Hot Bodyguard cameo in book 2. Rosie, you have a tall order.
Oh
they want to see him.
There's some good people at Harper College who want this to happen. So
I'll accept short stories. I'll accept, things of that nature. So just say. There's a great question that I want to ask both of you from the audience.
Okay.
Is there a character archetype? This is from a viewer named Ryan. Is there a character archetype, genre, or trope you want to write, but you haven't yet? What y'all got?
Okay, I'm gonna say the answer that might get me kicked out of YA, but I want to write a love triangle. I really, really do.
Oh, I'm here for a love triangle.
I really love triangle because Wraiths isn't a love triangle mostly because the bodyguard had to go, but I think what I like most about love triangles is that when they're done well, because they can be done poorly. I'll admit that. But when they're done well, they're not about oh, who do I want to make out with, but what do I want my life to look like? And I think that's what's so great about YA. It's about choice. It's about agency. It's the first time for a lot of people they're really stepping outside of the world they've known and really deciding what do I want my life to look like now that I get to decide some of those elements. And I think love triangles are a great way in a romance subplot to show what type of person do I want to be? What type of person do I want to be with? And that's why I think the Hunger Games love triangle is such a great one, because at the end of the day, it's not about Gale or Peeta. It's about, does Katniss want to keep on fighting for the cause? Does she want to keep putting her life and everything she is at on the line for the cause? Or does she feel like she's lost enough? She's sacrificed enough? Does she want to take a step back and be like, other people can do the work now. I'm going to take care of myself.
But Gale was sexier in the movie, though, Rosie.
True.
So
you're
we just
right
have to
that.
say that. Do nobody want Peeta? Do nobody want Peeta? Go make that bread, Peeta. Don't nobody
Listen.
Brittany, don't even try it.
Me wanted Peeta.
I actually
you can have Peeta. I'm taking Gale. Gale has mad muscles, yo.
Have Gale. Have you seen his brother?
Look.
Okay, well, true. His brother's Thor.
Okay,
really?
His brother's Thor. So, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Look. I don't want no Peeta, but whatever. I'm gonna get all the hate. For not loving Peeta. I think a love triangle is great. I'm here for them. I love a love triangle. As a teen, I wanted a love triangle, but with slim pickings. You know what I mean? I wanted a love triangle. I want a love triangle now. Where are my suitors?
I don't have time for a love triangle. I just want to read about one.
So that's a good one. Brittany, what about you? Are there tropes or genres or an archetype you want to explore in your work?
So I don't know if this counts as a trope really, but I really love the idea of you know how many stories there are out there, especially in YA, especially in movies where the city is your playground, where people are teleporting through buildings and there's parkour and superheroes get to play with the whole city. And I often wonder what that would look like as a Black teenager, because you can't just run into a store looking for whatever you're looking for. There's so many different situations where it's you really have to stop and think. And I feel like it would be really, really cool to show all of those angles from a Black character's perspective. So I started brainstorming one. So hopefully that will be coming through soon.
Brittany,
that's
are you
awesome.
saying you want to write a Black national treasure? Because that's what I heard you just say right now.
Kind of. That's a great way to describe that.
But
Well,
also, can Nicolas Cage still be there? Just like he's not part, like he's not the main cast, but he's still there because you can't have National Treasure without Nick Cage.
Oh, man.
I think
if you demand Nicolas Cage in my book, I demand Hot Bodyguard in your book.
I mean, hold her accountable, Britt. Hold her accountable. Feet to the fire. I think for me, one of the things that I want to play with, and I would love to get your feedback. I want to write a Black villain. I want to write a Black anti-hero villain character. I am nervous because of the representation and the fact that we do need such great positive Black characters, but I want to talk about, like, what if Magneto was a Black man? And thinking about these things, right? Because Magneto is one of my favorite villains. And I want to talk about how do we deal with Blackness and villainy and all of that stuff. And so that's something that I'm thinking about trying on.
I'm so
because
excited for that.
I do want to be careful with it, but I still want to talk about, like, I love villains. I love villains more than heroes. So I want to try it out. Shoot. I want to play.
Do it.
Okay, there are a couple more questions. Ooh, beautifully bookish Bethany, who I know, said, drink or snack of choice. Like, you're writing drink or snack of choice. What you got?
Drink, lately it's water because I'm not hydrated enough and I'm trying to get on this hydration life. So drink is water. Snack is, I am really addicted to blue corn tortilla chips. Ooh, like, I do not like regular tortilla chips. I don't know why the blue corn is different. Like, I think it's just food coloring. I don't know if it's a mind thing, but the blue corn tastes better. And so, like, I will just mindlessly just keep eating blue corn chips. I'll just be like, like that. So those are two. So it's a very boring answer, but water and blue corn tortilla chips will take you far in life. Definitely. Thank you.
Brittany, what you eating while writing?
Well, I mean, coffee is definitely my drink of choice. Like, I only drink decaf, so I could keep drinking coffee even though I'm pregnant. And then snack of choice, lately, I've been wanting a lot of mango. Like, an ungodly amount of mango. Like, those, like, big, like, $12 packs of mango that they sell at, like, the grocery store? I'll just get one of those and clear one out in, like, 2 days. It's ridiculous.
I love it. For me, it's I have a soda addiction that I'm trying to kick. That's my caffeine. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life, which is weird. Not one. I've never even tasted it. I love the smell of it. I've never tasted coffee ever.
It tastes nasty. It tastes like bean water.
My mom
no, it doesn't. Come to my house. Water. I was a barista for 7 years. I'll do it right.
Yeah, my mom, as a child, she scared me. She was like, "Oh, there's a devil in this cup, so you can't have it." So I just have never had it because she's just mean.
I would think she was talking about whiskey.
No, she had that coffee. She didn't want anybody touching that coffee. And so I drink a lot of tea and Coca-Cola, soda, Pepsi, whatever. That's my caffeine, which is terrible. And popcorn. I'm like on a popcorn. I make fresh popcorn on the stove. I put lots of different spices in it. I really put a lot of Indian spices like garam masala, or I put jerk seasoning on my popcorn, which is actually wild, and it's actually delicious. If you do butter and jerk seasoning and you put it on popcorn, I'm telling you, Jamaicans don't come for me, but I'm telling you, it is mad good as a snack. Also, we've got multiple questions asking us, what are we reading? It's a great question.
Lists. So, oh my God, my copy's up in my room. Right now I'm reading Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. It's like Phantom of the Opera meets Moulin Rouge. And it's just like, but with like a brown main character. And it's just like glitzy and fabulous, but like there's just this dark underbelly to it. And it's just like, I'm a huge Phantom nerd. I love Phantoms. I'm just like, yes. I think I have these two on my shelf behind me. Oh God. I keep next on, let me put these back in. Next on my list, I want to do Ray Bearer by Jordan Ifweco.
Same. That's what I was gonna read.
Yes, this one's just like, first off, look at this Black girl, look at her hair.
Yes.
So there's this one, and then there's also Gilda ones.
Yep.
Yes.
I started this one. This one's intense, y'all. Like I have to
take a break. You have to be ready.
Now it's gonna hurt me. Okay, I need to get ready. So those are the next two. So those are the three I'm doing. All of them are also debuting. Namna says 2021, but the other two are debuting in August, and it's just, ooh, they're so good.
I'm reading a book called Trouble the Saints by Elia Dawn Johnson, which is great. It's like 1920s Harlem and magic, and I'm really, really into it. It's adult though. It's blasphemous. I know. No adult books, but it's adult. But Elia Dawn Johnson is also a YA author, so I'm cheating.
I guess the Summer Prince.
Yes.
So I am on 3 writing deadlines right now, so I am reading nothing. But I did stop like a third of the way through On the Come Up by Angie Thomas to start these deadlines. So I will be immediately picking that back up because it's incredible, of course.
Can I say something that like might make YA royalty mad at me? But I think, like The Hate U Give, On the Come Up, both incredible, different stories. But I think honestly, On the Come Up might be my favorite of the two. Like,
I just gonna get dragged. I'm gonna tell her.
You can tell her, it's like, Angie, please, I love you. And I just, because like, it's not like neither one is bad. I'm not saying one is worse, but just like the one that I think resonated with me was On the Come Up, because like what Star's going through is like something that no one should ever have to go through, that too many black teens do go through. But what Bree is going through, like dealing with like her mother losing her job, not knowing where the next like meal is gonna come from, like I feel like that is something that resonates with so many black teens I know, and like trying to keep up the facade that things are better at home than they are. I think more than anything else in that book, that is what got me right here. Like that, like it doesn't matter how things actually are, we have to make it look like we're okay. And I think that's something so many black kids can relate to. Like the whole, no matter how bad it gets, you make it look good. You make the struggle look good. And like I think On the Come Up, I felt that I was just like, oof.
It's a powerful message, and that leads to a question from the audience for you, Rosie. Is there one thing? This is from Teresa Park. Is there one thing you want people to take away from your story, and what is it and why? Just the way that you summarized what I think too is the big main idea of On the Come Up. What about for a song of Wraiths and Ruin?
I guess the one thing. Oh man, I don't have a.
I know it's a hot seat question. I didn't do that. Teresa did that.
I'll talk about this later. But I think if there's one thing I want readers to get away from it, it's the idea that the things you've been taught to hate about yourself is usually they can be your biggest strength. And also healing isn't linear, and that the work it takes to really heal from trauma is often messy. It's often ugly. It often sometimes look like regression, and sometimes you are going to regress. But like I cannot remember who said this, but someone said this to me recently, which is like, you can't defeat demons you won't face. And I think that's, I wish I could remember who said that. If you're in here and you're watching, you told me that, please tell me so I can credit you. But like, just from the moment someone said, I'm like, that is what A Song of Wraiths and Ruin is about. Like the idea that you cannot defeat demons you won't face. And both Malik and Karina have different kind of demons. Malik's are literal and also figurative, but like they have different kinds of demons that are holding them back in ways that they realize and ways they don't realize. And it's not until they do that work to face it, and the facing it is ugly. It's painful. They learn things about themselves they don't like about themselves. But it's necessary. And I think I want young readers to come away with that. Like, you gotta face yourself, and what you find on the other side of that is always gonna be worth it. It's always worth it to get to the other side of that.
I think it's a beautiful message too, because it gives a bit of hope. It's like those demons are gonna be tough, but you're gonna be here. And that is important. That it's going to be hard, but you're here. You are here. Mark Ashiro, who's a good friend.
Hey,
Mark, is watching and asked, from a craft perspective, Rosie, what's a thing in a song of Wraiths and Ruin that you are particularly proud of accomplishing?
Ooh, okay, I know the answer to this one. The magic system, because this magic system caused me so much trouble. I know.
Okay, speak on it.
She has the emails where I'm just like, Kristen, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just like, I'm sorry. The magic was not working. And then the moment the magic started working I was really thinking, I'm like, what are the rules of the system? Because I like magic with rules. Like, you can convince me like anything, like a world where like they fart out their spells. If you can like make clear rules, I'll believe it. Like, so I was thinking, so a tradition we have in Ghana is we have this thing called a day name. And where there's this belief that like it's the day of the week you are born is actually sort of one of the most important things about the kind of person you're going to be. And so different, like every day has a different name associated with it. And so, like, if you're Ghanaian and you tell me your name is Abna, I know, oh, you were born on a Tuesday, because we all know which day is which name. And so, like, for me, I was born Saturday, so my name is Ama. And so I always thought that was so fascinating. I was like, what if this was a way people drew power? Like, in this world, there's a different god for each day of the week, and a different god, each one's associated with a different type of magic. And in this world, the kind of magic you get is based on the day of the week you're born. And so that's what I ended up doing. And so for example, Karina, she's born on Wind Day. And so her patron deity is Saint-Tropez, the nightjar. And so wind people, they have certain associations with them. They have certain kind of jobs they're used to. Like there's certain, like sort of like just a space they occupy in society. And I think sort of being able to craft the magic in something that came so closely to my culture and something I know so well, but being able to put my own fun spin on it, I think that is something I'm so proud of. And I'm really proud of the way I ended up utilizing in the book, because even though like the religion became a big factor, it wasn't a world where everyone believes in these gods. Like some of these people have met these gods and they still don't believe in them, because I really fascinated the different ways religion and spirituality manifest. So like the idea of using magic and religion and spirituality, and also horoscopes, because I get to make fun horoscopes using the astrology of the world. And you can see, actually, there's some on Epic Reads right now. If you go to Epic Reads, you'll see the guest post I did talking about you can get your own A Song of Race and Ruin horoscope. So go check that out. And if you don't like your horoscope, come yell at me, please, because I'm mean. Thank you, Mark. That's a good question.
It was a good question, right? I love craft questions because I like to balance between the hard stuff that we have to talk about as women of color in this industry. And I think it is important that we talk open and honestly about things, but sometimes that dominates the conversation. We never get to talk about craft, like how we actually do the things that we do. Yes. So I like that balance. And so this is another sort of, it's more of an audience question, and it's from Hiccup question. It says, Rosie, why teen characters? And Britt, I want to know for you too.
Yes.
Why teen characters? What is it about that age that called to you as right for your characters? What do you think?
I think for me, what I love most about YA is like, number one, it's like kind of what I mentioned a little bit earlier. It's like your characters and people taking their first steps into the real world, first steps really truly thinking, who am I outside of what I've always been taught to believe, what I've been grown, like what am I past what I was made to be, which I think is something that like, honestly, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. But I feel like it truly, really starts in your teen years. So watching characters grapple with those big, big questions for the first time and coming with their answers and coming to the wrong answers and coming to the right answers is something that's so fun to write. But also, it's weird. This book, like y'all get mad at me for like the stuff that happens in this book, and it does get pretty dark. But like, I actually don't like I don't like sad endings. You're
happily ever after type of person, and I love that about you.
Actually, I'm actually sure if this book has happily. I'm not. You know what? Never mind. But anyway,
y'all, not to be trusted. Guard your heart. Guard your heart out here.
I think I like, even with characters who don't have happy endings in a YA novel, as long as your character is still alive at the end, there is still like hope, because the thing is, you're ending when they're like what, 17, 19, sometimes 20, like, and that's just the start of life. Like no matter where you are in the world, like 20 is not the end. 19 is not the end. Like no matter how bad things are where the character is at the end, unless they're dead, but if they're still alive, like it can only get better. Like this, it can only get better from there. I think there's an inherent hopefulness to YA, that you're putting them through the ringer. You're putting them through, like in the book, you're dealing with oppression, colonization, you're dealing with violence, you're dealing with abuse. And these characters are going through that because real teens are going through that. And real teens, I know I have gone through that. But the idea that like, I feel like 17-year-old me did not know that, like, you know what? There is like, in the moment, it feels like so much. It feels like the world is ending. And just the idea like, no, there's so much past it. Like there's so much past it. And I think that's what I love about YA. Like and by nature of the genre, it's a beginning. You know, for these characters, it's always a beginning, unless you do a flash forward, which some authors choose to do. And I'm like, I think a flash forward can be done well. I wish I could have more examples of when it was done well. That's what I'll say on flash forwards.
And I think that there's something inherently special about children's books and books for teens. And one of my friends made me watch this movie called Wendy the other day. And there's a quote from it. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's really great. It's on Apple TV. It says, growing up is a grand adventure. And I think that summarizes why I like writing for young people, because I want them to know that growing up is a grand adventure, and it has a lot of things under, out there, and a lot of things for discovery about yourself and about the world. And I'm hoping that everyone gets to have a grand adventure as they grow up. And I think that's why it's so much fun. And they're so much more open-minded. Teens are like, they'll rock with you. Be like, what?
Yes.
These two characters have to kill each other? They're going to fall in love? Give me that book. You know what I mean? Give me that book. Versus adults are like, no. There's blah, 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 this and this. Oh, no.
Adults tend to be more, well, actually.
Like, right, exactly. She wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. Blah, like it's so much red tape. Versus the kids are like, what? Oh, there's kissing in this book? Great. I'm in, like it's just like, that's what I loved about being a librarian for middle schoolers, because that's it. It was like, they would say, Miss, because they're in Harlem, Miss, is there kissing in this book? Give me that book. And that's it. That's all I had it like. And I wish that I'd had your book, because me and my students would have been like, ooh, they would come to school like, ooh, Malik. Yes. They would have been like, they would have been loving the characters and the world, and feeling very seen by the cover, by the iconography, by all the texture that you put in your work, which is great. And we're at 8:00, so I need to give my code word. And so my code word is teacup elephant.
I love those.
So if you've read the bells, there are teacup animals. So teacup elephant.
There's also a hot bodyguard.
Yes, there is a bodyguard. Yes, absolutely.
Running trend we got going, the hot bodyguard here.
And I think the last question let's end on such a positive, happy note. If there is one thing that you could say to teen readers right now about everything that's going on, about all of the stuff, what would you tell them? What should we tell them? Because it's a lot going on right now.
Honestly, I think what we need to tell them is the world is worth fighting for because you are worth fighting for. And that definitely feels like you open it up, there's something new every day, there's something happening, like, and it feels like, why am I fighting for this world when it feels like it doesn't care about me? It feels like nothing changes. This fight has been happening for generations and generations and generations, but because you matter and because what you care about, what you believe in, what you see, how you experience the world, like how you experience love, how you experience your gender identity, how everything, because that matters, that makes the world worth fighting for. And so even if you are just fighting for yourself and your right to exist in the way you want to exist, you are fighting for the world. So I think I want teen readers to know that, like, you're allowed to take breaks, you're allowed to despair, you're allowed to just put your phone down and be like, I can't do this today. But the fight is still worth it. And the fight isn't going to, like, we're not going to lose it because you take a break from it. Like, no, please rest. But also know, I don't want to say don't give up, because I know I hate it when people tell me don't give up. But truly, like it's truly like the thing that you care most about, that you are most passionate about in the world, that is like the core of what you are, what you believe in. That is always worth fighting for. No matter what around you makes you feel like it's not worth it or it's not going to change anything, it always is worth it.
And I would echo, just don't be quiet. Do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like this is going to be yours. So really make it what you want it to be, and make sure that you use your voice in any way that you feel you need to, whether it's written, whether it's through art, through music, through dance. Find a way to express yourself. I think that's the only way to maintain some level of sanity when things are really rough, is to find a way to use your voice.
And I would echo that by saying, personally, I haven't lost hope, because they are my hope. Like, they're the ones with all the time ahead of them and all the encouragement behind them to learn new things. They're the ones who still believe in the impossible. They haven't lost that, and just run with it, whatever that means for them. And don't let anyone tell them who to be.
Yeah, I love that.
In the meantime.
And so, Rosie, I adore you, and I think you're fabulous. And thank you so much for writing this amazing book. You are special, and this book is special, and you've really done something amazing that you should feel proud of. You did a thing. We've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you.
I was going to say, I've been waiting to scream with somebody about this book for over a year.
Yes.
Finally.
And I'm just so happy to see you. I'm so happy that you're here and that you're part of the sisterhood and that we're here. Black fantasy writers, holding it down, doing our thing, writing our stories, making sure that all children have something to read, and especially Black children have something to read. And you're a part of that, and you need to feel very proud that you did that.
Mhm.
You did a damn thing.
Love you.
Honestly,
And you're
Proud to know
beautiful,
you.
and you're awesome, and
Always here to support
you guys
you.
are really trying to make me cry. You guys really said Rosie said she's gonna cry. Well, you guys really trying to make it happen.
no, we don't want to mess up your makeup because you're looking good, girl. I just want to love up on you, and I think that Black people need to be told that we love them in this time. And so I wanted to just tell you that I feel that way, and I think we all need to know that we are loved, and you are loved, and you did a wonderful thing, and I want you to feel proud of it. So yeah, so buy the book, everybody, and
Yeah,
I'm already
everybody.
getting mad emails from the code words. So yes.
Hey.
Oh, should we say them again? I think we should say all three again. And remember, I saw a question in there. You guys, you have to say all three code words, not just one. So make sure we'll say them one last time here. So, okay, so mine is talking hyena. Okay, talking hyena. 2 words.
Britt.
Mine is s'mores ice cream. Also
And
2 words.
Look
S'mores
at us.
ice cream.
And mine is 2 words, teacup elephant. So please send me an email and we will pick the winners, hopefully sometime this week, and you'll receive an email from me. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us tonight and giving us some time. And we're out.
Thank you, Books for the Past, for hosting. Thank you, Erin.
Yes.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.